Talk about evolution as a leader. Today's guest has done it. Join us. Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Doug Hudson.
I'm Scott Wood.
Welcome, Joe Eastin, Executive Chairman and Chairman of the Board at ISN.
Thank you, Doug.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for the orange socks.
Well, I'm glad you like them. If you want, I may let you borrow them.
I 100% I'll wear them. What is ISN? Why is it orange?
Well, a lot of people think it has something to do with my alma mater, Oklahoma State, and my business partner's alma mater, Princeton, and it may have something to do with that.
Oklahoma State licensing, it's not the exact same PMS color. He told me that. It's slightly different.
That's right.
We always start with socks or no socks.
Or no
The
socks.
theme today so far has been no socks, but now we got orange socks, so we're good.
You wear the same socks. I know clean, but you wear the same socks every day?
No, just for special occasions like today.
Like it.
Yeah.
I like it. So normally you're just going to go with whatever matches the suit.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Are you from Oklahoma?
I am. I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma outside of Tulsa.
Okay.
So
what town?
A little town called Adair, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And Jay made reference to that. I can't believe he remembered that. But one stoplight town.
Yeah.
My dad was from Tulsa, youngest of 12, and after he got out of the service, I think he wanted to have a little bit of distance from the rest of the group, but still be close enough.
12. Wow.
Yes.
What's the age gap between him and what his oldest would have been?
I think it was 20 years or so.
Good night. Yeah.
And my mother's from Colorado, and
Okay.
they met when he was in the service, and he brought her back to Oklahoma, and we ended up in the stoplight town
I
of
live
Adair.
in Fayetteville, Arkansas now.
Okay,
so
it's not far.
Which way is Adair from Tulsa? North, south, east, west?
So northeast. So we were probably, half an hour from the Arkansas border, half an hour from the Missouri border,
Yeah.
right there. So
My wife is from Altus, Oklahoma.
Okay.
So I thought Oklahoma was the ugliest place on the planet until I was introduced to Tulsa. And then that side, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're trees. It's a beautiful part of the country.
it is. Tulsa's a great city.
Yeah, Tulsa. Yeah.
It is. But yeah, so we grew up there. You think about decisions in life, and we were talking about this earlier, how different ones take you different ways. And so my mom grew up in Colorado, was going to go to college, but didn't go to college to take care of her mom. She ends up in Denver. She lived outside quite a ways from Denver. And then she meets my dad. It ends up in Oklahoma. It's just, you look at people's lives and how this happens. And then my dad quit school and after middle school because his three brothers were fighting in Europe in World War II. And so you think about, God, what could have happened differently? But then we end up where we ended up, and just so grateful for it.
Did he end up serving, or did he, in a sense, go to work to help work with the family?
He did serve in the military after, but he was only, he was born in 1931, so he was only, 13 years old helping.
Yeah. Where did he and your mom meet?
On a blind date.
Where? In Colorado?
In
or?
Denver, yes.
In Denver?
Uh-huh. And then my oldest two brothers were born in Denver, and then my sister and I'm the youngest of four, were born in Tulsa.
And your mom and dad still with us, or?
So my mom she's 87 years old, young, and we moved her here to Dallas. And so she lives here in a retirement community. So it's wonderful to have her close by. And my dad passed away quite a few years ago.
Siblings, where are they? How they?
Two older brothers in Tulsa and a sister in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all doing very well. So.
Yeah. And your wife's name?
Monica?
Monica.
Yes.
All right. How long y'all been married?
20 years.
Where'd you meet?
Blind date. There's
Come on, seriously.
And this is when a blind date was a real blind date 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
This is not where you can
Pull it up
on
on
the
your phone. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know much about your mom and dad's? Like, was it at a restaurant? Was it a bar? Or do you
It's friend introduction. Yeah. Yeah. Same
so
here.
Where yours and Monica's? Yeah.
Same. Yeah. Just acquaintance.
Was that in Oklahoma or was it in Dallas?
At the time I was living in Austin. I'd already graduated college, and she was in Dallas.
Okay.
And then they had introduced us. Yeah. So, and then we actually didn't date right away. We ended up reconnecting a few years later and got married.
So you met the one time and then that was it?
Yeah, we kind of went out, 2 or 3 times, and I thought she was one of these Dallas, you know, little bit snooty for me. And
You were from Adair,
I was,
so you were like,
yeah,
this ain't gonna work.
I was some hill jack that probably, you know, run around. So she probably said, you need to grow up, and I probably said the same thing, and we reconnected, and it's been great ever since.
Well, who reconnected? You reach out to her?
Actually, I ran into her mother. Ironically, her mother's a real estate agent in Dallas, and just ran into her, and then her mom actually put us back together.
She said, "You knuckleheads, figure this out."
Exactly.
How old were you when you ran into her mom?
Oh, I was 30.
And how many years had it been? 5 or 6 years?
So it'd been, at least, yes.
So when you
6
ran
or
into her
7.
mom, did you say, what's going on with Monica? Is she married? Were you inquisitive, or did you just engage the mom and
a little bit of both, probably.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I try not to show my hand too much.
So you play poker as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how you and Jay know each other, because you play poker. Y'all have kids?
We do. Yeah. So we've got kids at ESD. So we've got senior daughter, and
What's her name?
her name's Kate.
Okay.
And we have a sophomore daughter. Her name's Alex. And we have a 7th grade son, Nick.
Awesome.
And so it's been busy, but so much fun.
Yep.
And they've been terrific. And you know, going through senior year in high school, I didn't realize how busy that is. People warned me, but wow! So we're coming up on
For her
graduation.
and for you and Monica.
For everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yes, so it's good.
Where's she going to go to school?
She is going to Texas.
Did she look at OSU?
She applied OSU for dad.
Yeah.
She did.
Check that box.
And tapped me on the head and said, "I'll do that." And she's been a great, hardworking student. So she had some good options, but she wanted to stay somewhat close. So I'm real proud of her.
Well, those socks can work.
They can. You know, I think if you wash them 10 more times, they'll get a little more faded. And looks
Because right now they're almost University of Tennessee, the other UT. What are the kids into? Are they sports, arts? What are they?
They are a little bit everything.
Yeah.
I mean, sports, you know, soccer, and my middle daughter played lacrosse for a while, and then my youngest is kind of into it all. He's playing every sport that he's probably not going to get a full ride scholarship in. So football and baseball. So I'm like, why don't we pick up one of these other sports that you might have a shot? He's like, no, I want to play these. I said, great. So
absolutely. What were you into growing up?
Well, I mean, again, I graduated 58 people in my high school class. So you truly, you know, it was football, basketball,
whatever the season was.
So whatever the season was,
Yeah.
you know, chase your next door neighbor girlfriend and go to the lake and work on the farm and on the ranch. And that was pretty much what we
Did you go
did.
to Grand Lake?
We go to Grand Lake.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
Well, of course, and not much. Obviously now more Beaver Lake, but that whole area. And again, my wife, it's funny, the Oklahoma in the family, her side is OU. Her brother and his wife, they have 2 kids. One was OU, one was OSU. And that's when I was introduced to in Altus, the curbs being, you wear your allegiance on the curb in Oklahoma. So you paint it burgundy, crimson with OU, or orange with OSU. So both amazing universities and both amazing towns. But her family grew up going to Grand Lake, and it's beautiful.
How'd you get to OSU? That's an important part of the story.
So, no, that's a great question. So I did not do all the campus tours that my kids are doing. You know, it was pretty simple. You know, I applied to OSU and OU, the 2 public institutions in the state. I didn't even think about going out of state because I was paying my own way. And I was like, I've got to have in-state tuition. And applied to them both, got into them both. You know, literally a week before I had to decide, I chose OSU. And it was, you know, it just felt right. I always have loved OU. I mean, if you play high school sports, and specifically football growing up in the state, that's your professional team.
And particularly back in that day.
And then, but at the last second, I just felt more comfortable at OSU. That's what happened. So it was great.
You don't know this, but I went to wrestling camp at OSU one summer
Nice.
in high school.
I mean,
So
You were pretty good if you went to camp up there.
I spent 2 weeks in Stillwater in the dorms.
I can't think of 2 worst weeks ever. Wrestling camp in a singlet in Stillwater. Now that's a poster to send kids to do something else, right?
I wish we had some photos.
Yeah, there's probably some photos around somewhere.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wore it well, and the hair was, I'm sure, perfect. But nothing as simple as that, Joe. No relationship, no conversation, no proximity to home. Almost just OSU felt right.
Yeah, I knew a couple guys that had gone to each school, and so that was a reference. And I'd been to maybe one game for each, and football game. But no, it just felt right, and just had to make a decision.
Well, and we'll come back, but just to jump ahead, like OSU's become a really big part of your life now as an alumni and as a supporter. And I know you go back and forth a lot, and you serve up there. And
Yes, I do. And I'm obviously very proud of the university, and the people and the leadership. The leadership before, just a few years ago was so strong with President Burns Hargis, obviously with Boone Pickens paving the way, and then Mike Holder, our athletic director. And today it just gets even stronger and stronger with President Casey Schramm and our athletic director, Chad Weiberg. And it's good. OSU has a lot of hidden history that a lot of people don't know of people that came out of OSU. Obviously Garth Brooks and Coach Jimmy Johnson, and Barry Sanders, and not just Boone Pickens as a business leader, but there's a plethora of them, and a lot of people don't know. And part of it is the character, I think, of a lot of people that come out of that school. It's a very high humility, and sometimes I think we don't toot our own horn, so to speak, but that's having to change a little bit in the last few years, because especially with the competition and universities out there, not only for students but obviously for athletes and leadership and NIL and et cetera. So
No, NIL has forced a tremendous business optics, total rethought process on the entire university landscape. It's from every angle. Where did that connection start to grow with OSU for you, Joe? Where was the memory? Because Monica, she went to
North Texas.
North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you start to say, this is something I really want to invest time and resources in?
That's a great question. You think about it, I think the schools typically do a very good job of, laying the breadcrumbs out a little bit to kind of get you involved, being on a committee here or there. And then you start seeing the leadership. Again, when you look at a Boone Pickens or a Ross McKnight or somebody of that stature, you look at the success that not only Mike Gundy has had consistently, but the golf program, and you just start seeing this over and over and over, and you want to, you're part of it. You are part of it, and you want to be a little more part of it. And so maybe you can't always give your treasure, especially early days, but you can give your time, and then I think that leads into both. And I think that goes for probably any university that you really were close to or felt like gave you something. And I do feel like, it gave me a lot, because coming from where I came from, I was not, I didn't have a lot of the advanced schoolwork that a lot of people do. I look at my kids, I'm just in awe how prepared they are. And OSU was probably a good landing ground for me.
Yeah, but again, small town and that transition where it maybe would not have been just automatic that this is what we're going to go do. So, it's funny that we have this conversation. Before I got married, if not, frankly, it was probably Barry Sanders on TV, but I had moved to Dallas when I was 22. And I remember when OSU, I fell in love with golf. And when they said Ping and Carson Creek were building, that was so ahead of its time to invest, because that was like a top 50 destination spot to go play golf at, here in the middle of nowhere. But to whoever the thought leaders were beginning to sow into that, I mean, it turned Stillwater, Oklahoma into one of the greatest golfing meccas on the planet.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. And I can't name all the people that were there because I don't recall everybody, but the leader was Mike Holder. At the time was the Oklahoma State golf coach, and then ultimately became athletic director, and then now is retired. And to Mike's credit, even as a retired AD, he's still very involved. And we're now doing a $35 million renovation of Carson Creek right now. You know, one of the things I would add too is OSU, like many schools, A&M or state schools is a land grant school. And, when you look at OSU, it's still today about 40% are first generation.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you talk about, why do you give back, or why do you care? It's like, well, that's making an impact.
That's
So,
huge, Joe. Yeah, what an unbelievable investment into the people of Oklahoma and into the greater 40%. It's incredible.
well, and 35% of the student population is from Texas.
Well, and I think like OU, Oklahoma State, other schools outside of Texas are the beneficiary of Texas being, so much,
Arkansas is exact same.
No doubt.
100%.
being more challenging to get into. Now, all our state schools are way more competitive than they used to be. And
Yes.
so kids are having to go elsewhere, and that creates opportunity.
And that's a fight for the talent then to retain it. And I know that's been a big part of Northwest Arkansas. They have enough mojo going on now. They can start to retain that talent. So their parents sending their 18-year-old from Texas to Fayetteville or Bentonville, and that person is beginning to stay. Probably not quite as much at Norman and Stillwater yet, although Norman they can go, or still OSU, they can go to Oklahoma City or Tulsa. So keep that talent in state. It's huge. All right, where's your first job? And what is it?
Well, my real first job was hauling hay, actually, on the ranch. So,
And if we said job means you got to get paid for it, did you get paid for hauling hay, or did you just get to eat and sleep in the house?
the first was eat and sleep, but then I graduated to I think it was a nickel a bale. I got paid, and then
Negotiating with
get
your dad?
Then yes, and the neighbors. So,
the neighbors?
Yeah, so I was.
Who paid more?
Dad ultimately, but not at first. After college, I worked for a telecom division of Pitney Bowes, and just was selling, voicemail systems and dictation systems. They had a postage division.
And where's this?
This is in Austin.
Okay. So you
So-
graduate. Walk us through that.
I graduate. They hired me, moved me to Tulsa for about, 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
The guy that hires me gets promoted to Texas, and he took me with him.
Oh, okay.
And so this is 1992 in May, and there was not a lot of jobs to be found. I think literally myself and another guy were the only guys we ran around with that was going to go to work.
Yep.
I was half an inch away from going to officers candidate school. I mean, I had most of the paperwork in, I was set, and I get this job, and I'm thinking back to decision points. It's like, wow, how different would my life have changed? Sometimes I wish I would have gone that route to see and to serve and to wonder where I would have ended up. But I thought, one of the big things was, I had a passion to go do business. I really was curious and felt like I had an entrepreneurial mind. So I wanted to just get out there. And so I took the job, and it was a great experience, good training. I did that for 3.5 years. From there, I went to work for an engineering software company. From there, I went to work for Entergy, which is a big power company based in New Orleans. And then from there, in 2000, I moved to Dallas. And that's where Bill Addy and I met, and we were both working for an environmental firm. And then quit our jobs and created ISN. And so that's been 24 years ago.
Go back for a second. Where does this entrepreneurial vibe and spirit start to show itself to you? And what is that looking like to you?
I was always a curious kid. I mean, being the youngest, and I was 8 years younger from my third sibling. So I was really way younger. I was the surprise or, or the oops, like
kind
my siblings would call me.
raised almost only child a little bit.
In a way.
Yeah.
And so, little things like I would, we had this old globe, blue earth globe in the room, and I would just always looking at it and where's this? And God, what about that? And I told you about my uncles that were in World War II. They all came back alive and shot up a little bit, but it was great. When I was little, they'd all be sitting in the, sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee. But because I was the youngest of the youngest, I was able to have access to that. And I'd crawl in under the kitchen table and listen to their stories.
No way.
And I was not supposed to be in there, but I did it over and over.
And those old men act like they didn't know you were there. And of course, they knew you were there.
I was there. And they'd be smoking their no-filter Camel cigarettes and their black coffee. And it was a great. But, just on and on, trying to be curious. I would sit there and, my dad would be doing the books and on the cattle and writing checks. And he and my mom would be doing the bills. And I'd be sitting there watching. And, just always trying to learn and wonder what's next. And so I think it was just ingrained in me a bit. And I think anybody that owns their own family, owns their own business or owns their own restaurant or a ranch or a farm or anything like that makes you curious.
When you graduated, were you all still in the ranching or farming or cattle business? Did you think was there a point that you thought you might go down that path?
A little, but and I still would love to have a place. My second brother still, he's in the oil and gas business, but he still lives on the farm the ranch we grew up on. So he's I can go back and visit and see him and get a taste of that when I want it.
When you got to OSU, did you go to business school?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went.
And that was intentional, and you were like, I want to go into business, and
like at Texas as an example, you need to declare, and OSU's not that way. As many you just go and then you figure it out. But I was immediately going to go into the business school. So that was a terrific experience, and again, like most people, when you get more into your upper level, you get a lot more interest and a lot more focus. I later went back to business school, and that was a few years later. But at OSU, it was a good experience. Some good professors.
Where'd you go back to business school at OSU or somewhere else?
No, I went back to Sloan at MIT in Boston.
And how old are you? And that's a huge decision point. It's money, investment, time.
Yes.
What led you to say, this is a smart thing for me to go do?
Well, it was funny. I was an old guy doing it. So I went back on a part-time program. So Sloan has 3 programs. You can do normal 2-year program. You live, eat, go do your summer internships. They have a condensed program that's 13 months for same curriculum, and then they have a part-time program for 2 years. And I did the part-time program because I was already married and had kids, young kids, and we already had been with ISN and had ISN rolling. But the reason I did it, for one, I'd always been in the back of my mind, again, curiosity and what else can we learn? Because we kind of, you have some success, you start sniffing your own exhaust all the time, and I'm like, okay, I've lived mainly in the South. I've lived in Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, a little bit in Georgia and Louisiana with my work. And I'm like, okay, that's great. How can I challenge myself? And we were at a place, with ISN, okay, what else can we be doing from a data analytics perspective? What else can we be doing from a technology? AI was just first being talked about. And so going to Boston for that 2 years was a real invigorating experience for me.
So when was that, Joe?
That was 2013.
Okay, yeah. So ISN's rolling 13-ish years at that point.
That's right.
Yeah. You and Bill, you all started ISN together?
So Bill's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
I respect the hell out of Bill. He's terrific and been really like a big brother to me. And so he set it up in the end of 2000, and he's the one that put the money in at the beginning. And then, but we were together from the beginning.
Yep.
And then later I finally had a couple of nickels to rub together, but it was really him. And then, we just bootstrapped it. I mean, I'd pick Bill up every Monday morning at 4 a.m. and we drive to Houston. We had 2 or 3 programmers down there, and we'd go call on people and split a hotel room. And we literally would stay at the Embassy Suites. And we had a buddy that worked for Floor Daniel back then, and he had a $70 rate at Embassy Suites. This was like, my God, this is so good. It was great because you get free breakfast, right?
The breakfast would cost you $70 now.
Exactly. So we stayed, and we'd split a room, and we'd eat breakfast, and that would be our only meal for the day. And then they had free popcorn and beer at the end of the day. So you probably don't want to live your life with that diet, but it worked for about a year and a half to get the company off the ground.
Incredible. Those stories, origin stories, are amazing.
And where were you guys working when you met?
We were working for, it was an environmental company called Earth Care. It doesn't exist anymore. It was an environmental waste company. So they were really trying to do a lot of roll-ups with, they had hazardous waste and oil fill, but a lot of their biggest business was like restaurant grease traps and like septic systems. I think it was not a luxurious business, but the thought is they were trying to roll up all these small ones. That's what was interesting, and roll it up into a public institution and do something with it. So my old roommate, Justin Stead, one of my very dearest best friends in the world, he knew Bill, and his wife at the time knew Bill and worked for Bill at Boston Consulting Group. And we met, hit it off. And I did not report to Bill directly, but reported to our COO at the time. But I learned a lot in a short amount of time. Learned a lot what to do and what not to do, frankly. And I also learned, how complex different businesses are. I mean, you study these, and I'd been in different industries, but when you look at a capital-heavy, intense business, be it trucking and be it equipment and people, and you just how different you have to focus on things. And I'd had a taste in software, doing engineering software. I had a taste for the energy company. I had a taste in really trucking, and so it was a true education, as most things. I tell people, young people all the time will come to me, well, what should I do, or how should I do this? Or if I go back and I speak at OSU or MIT or what have you, I always tell them, just get started and go, because I did not have a decision tree.
Yeah, you didn't have a roadmap.
No, it was just go.
Go learn.
And one thing I learned, and maybe that was part of growing up and having to improvise all the time, is you have to just go. And I tell people all the time, like, well, I don't know if I want to do that, or I kind of want to live here. And I'm like, just go get a job, and you will fall into this next chapter, and you won't even know it. And as long as you're moving forward and working hard, it's gonna work. No, who would have thought that we're now running, and we have a successful platform subscription company making a difference. What we have today with 700 employees, we have 14 offices around the globe, and you would have seen my path, and there's no way that's going to happen. Yep. But anyway, that would be my recommendation to people coming out of school.
Joe, it's phenomenal, and I don't know. I think it's certainly transferable beyond just come out of school, right? A lot of leaders get stuck, and just
Good point.
You said keep moving. Are you making progress? Mm-hmm. So if you're stuck, that's a good time to evaluate. Mm-hmm. How do I get myself in another growth spot? Mm-hmm. But one foot in front of the other. Scott said it often. One of the difficult journeys. You say, what did you woke up and you were just like, what do I got to do today?
I got to go get in the shower, get cleaned up, put my suit on, and go to the office and work. And then do it again tomorrow, do it again the next day, do it again the next day, do it again the next day, and good things happen over time. Right.
That's right, Scott. And, and you look at it, people will look at us and go, oh, well, that was probably pretty easy, or that was pretty straightforward. And, all the little ups and downs that you go through, the decision making, so many people telling you it's not going to work over and over. And then you get through it. You think back even what we were doing, our first version of our software was on a floppy disk.
Yeah.
And we converted it to an online application. That sounds so archaic right now. When I hear myself say
But that was revolutionary back then, and scary, probably.
Scary.
Yeah.
And people thought that's never going to work. And people would tell us all the time, because our customer base when we started was in the energy business, and 50% of our customers are in the energy business today, which we love and cherish. But many of them were pipeline companies geographically dispersed across the country. Mm-hmm. And they would look at me and say, Joe, internet? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is 2001. I don't have internet.
Yeah.
I'm in Altus, Oklahoma, or I'm in Rock Springs, Wyoming, or I'm in wherever. And so then you have to overcome even these other challenges. You're like, wow, we were doing everything so right, and the ref called the wrong call, right? And then but guess what? You just get up and you go back out in the field, and you do it again.
You and Bill were at the same company. What was the name of it again? Environmental?
It was Earth Care.
Earth Care.
Yep.
Somehow you guys got together there, and one of you had an idea and said, hey, let's go do this. Walk us through that part of the evolution of ISN and how the idea got started.
Sure. And so what had happened, you had this environmental firm, and they had a skunk works of software engineers. And they were trying to figure out, how to optimize different trucking, different manifest systems, also at the same time providing kind of more traditional IT services to the main corporate and all the branch offices. And so, Bill and I had hit it off early, and we became fast friends. And, the corporate was shutting down that group because it was just bleeding money. So it was just truly kind of a circumstance situation. And we got to know some of those guys. And one of the things that they did have, because they were Houston based originally, is a big, focus on energy. And Bill had worked for Chevron before BCG, and I'd worked for Entergy. So we knew what it was like a bit to work in that space. We knew what it was like to hire people, and specifically to hire contractors. And, Bill was doing it on a clipboard in the 80s for Chevron. I was doing it on a clipboard in the 90s for Entergy. Nothing had really changed. Mm-hmm. And looking at a lot what they had done, it's like, wow, this could really, maybe there's something here, because we lived that, and we watched how the original version of the software was trying to track information and trying to become more transparent with information. Training, be it qualifications, be it entrance into assets, to refineries, to places that normally were all done with paper or badges. This is interesting, because we live that life, and we thought there's got to be something there. So when we think back, it's truly like most things in life, it's an accumulation of ideas of a handful of people. Now, we had the courage to go for it. I think we had the ability to simplify a lot of these ideas and see, okay, how do we monetize this? And so we hired basically it was collapsing, and it did collapse, but we hired the two what we thought best software engineers out of that group.
Out of Earth Care.
Yes.
Yep.
And they came with us. And then we just started. And and again, we didn't we'd go talk to people for the first year and and a half, and they just kind of tap us on the head and go, that's a really neat idea, but you're way ahead of what we can do. And what happened is at the end of 2001, there was a regulation from the Department of Transportation called OQ, or Operator Qualification. And there'd been so many, there had been some severe spills and explosions in the pipeline industry in the last few decades before that. And DOT basically came down and said, look, we have to have a better qualification method, and tracking mechanism. And so many of these pipeline operators, they were trying, even back then, they were trying, and they could manage their own people, but there was no real way to manage the contractors, other than right there overseeing them constantly. And so you got such a mixed bag of qualified people, contractors especially. Some were outstanding, some were maybe just started their company, and you look at the statistics, and a lot of the recordable incident and the severity and the fatalities sadly were coming from the contractor side.
Yep.
Because they were not
oversight, I guess.
Exactly.
Trained, whatever.
Yeah. In the old days, it was the Chevrons or the ExxonMobil's, employees driving the Chevron truck, wearing the Chevron overalls. We saw the trend, really it began in the late 70s where contractors became more prevalent on job sites. And it didn't matter if it was, midstream, upstream, or downstream. And so you have that, and it's still going today. So we had been, doing this for about a year and a half with no business.
No customers.
No customers. Truly, we're right place at the right time. And they were like, look, we have to have a mechanism to do this. And again, the internet was still relatively new, especially in an industrial space. And we started working with this consortium of pipeline operators, and you had all the big ones in there. And it was all approved by DOT that they could work and have best practices. But you had Kinder Morgan, you had Chevron, you had Enterprise, you had ExxonMobil, you had, all of them. And pretty much. And after about 6 months of working with them, we'd go back in our dark room and improve it and go back and forth, and really made it look and smell like pipeline operators in midstream. And came back, and Shell Pipeline and Koch Industries were our two first customers. And after that, it went like, for all the pretty much most of the pipeline companies.
Everybody got on the bandwagon.
Joe, what's the first solution? Are they paying you a yearly contract, a monthly, per employee? What was the first business model that you and Bill were offering to those first customers?
So, really has been the same from the beginning, which is subscription model, which was very new back then.
100%.
And, I think, Bill had a good vision from being at BCG, and I, being from the working for the engineering software company in the old way of selling seats, where you'd sell enterprise seats. And we realized that we need to get out there. Let's don't have price be the block. The reason for no. And so we set up a subscription model, and we set up the technology that way. And the technology we had, it was in the beginning, was so bad. I mean, it was just very...
But it was better than everybody else because there was nobody else, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And so a two-sided platform. So what we call our hiring clients, the owner-operators that own the assets, are on one side of the platform, and on the other side are the contractor companies. So both sides pay. Both sides are customers. Both sides require a lot of help, and we help them. And I think one of the biggest things for us is over-serving them, making sure that we are helping them as best we can. And that's been that way for the beginning. So even though our technology in the beginning wasn't great, one thing we can't control is people, and being there for them. Because, a lot of times in these situations, they're panicked. They're going, oh my God, I got a job to do. I got to be on this project. I got to send a crew out. I'm going to lose this project, or I'm going to lose my company. And so because of compliance reasons, because you had all of this going down, especially in the beginning with the pipeline. So that for the model has still carried today. And obviously the platform, the suite of offerings has increased dramatically, because once we got into this one piece of functionality for pipelines, you simply say, what else do you need? And then you talk to the upstream folks. What else do you need? So then health and safety and environmental. Oh, can we look and track sustainability? We've been tracking ESG items for 24 years. Insurance, background checks, drug and alcohol, supplier diversity. Go down the list, training, competency, down to individual levels. So you have this massive amount of data that now not only appeals to high risk, capital intensive energy companies, but high risk manufacturing companies, and risk can come in different forms. Risk can obviously, when you think about what we're talking about right now, is God forbid something blows up, somebody gets hurt, physically hurt. Risk always is also business continuity. It's risk to your company. If that plant shuts down, that refinery shuts down, that's a big loss. And then risk is for your brand. Risk is how do we mitigate the risk for your company? So we have companies on board that are retail companies, as an example, or big box retail chains, and to them they have all those under their mind or on top of their mind. But what happens a lot with them is obviously the name of the paper, and they definitely don't want that. But they want to mitigate the risk across the board. We recently bought a company in Paris, France, last August, and what they do, they're called Transparency One, and what they do is more supplier mapping risk. So when you think about us, it's service companies turning wrenches, doing the work, again, on the manufacturing side or an energy side. What they're doing is tracking the components of the supply chain. So some of their customers, as an example, they make sure there's not child labor, to make sure it's truly being delivered in the best way it can. It's not perfect. The world's not perfect,
Right.
But again, they're way ahead of the curve, and we're excited because we believe it's a very good match with what we do, and it's a similar business model.
How did you and Bill divide and conquer those first, say, 10, 12 years? What are the roles? What's happening in the culture?
That's a very good question. And from the beginning, from day one, Bill and I divided right then.
Okay.
And, I think,
And you had that conversation.
we had that conversation
Okay, yep.
day one, because we knew it was hard to serve two leaders at
Yep.
once. And so Bill more, strategy, financial mind. I was more operations. I ran, sales teams. I ran operations teams on different companies. So from then on, everyone reported to me. And then Bill and I just were constantly communicating. And that was probably one of the best decisions we made.
Bill's 10 years older than you.
Right. That's right.
How'd that conversation? Was it easy, hard?
Well, he actually is the one that said it. I was thinking it. He's the one that said everyone should probably report to you. This is in your wheelhouse. And I was thinking it, and I said, I agree. That's great. And we went on. Obviously, if it wasn't working, we might have had a different conversation
Exactly.
a year later. But it's worked and continues to work. And today, I look at our leadership and the people that have come up, and so proud of them. Brian Callahan is now our president CEO, and Brian was also at Oklahoma State behind me a couple of years, and I knew Brian.
What percent is the OSU is on leadership? Is it?
Well, it used to be like 80%, but now it's like 20%.
So
I
an
think.
OU grad, can they even get in the door?
We have an OU grad,
Okay, all right.
Kim Hawley. She is one of our greatest, and Marie Anderson, great Texas grad. So
All right.
yeah, we've got them up there. So yeah, you just keep going, but separating those duties was very important, I think, for us.
Yeah, it gave clarity immediately, which is key. What would the team? How would they describe your leadership style?
Thoughtful, lead by example, not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. Check your ego at the door, and be truly put yourself in the other person's shoes. And I think that was something that I learned even growing up. I mean, maybe that was part of the whole journey, or being the youngest and being who I was, or half only, but observing. You get that unbelievable opportunity to observe that I think you don't when you're on the other end of that bell curve of age, sibling curve. And I think for me, I just truly naturally want people to have the best experience. That means our employees, that means our customers. Now, it doesn't mean be soft, because we have a business to run. We have expectations, and we have very high expectations. One of the things, too, that I point back is, look, we've got to keep the lights on. We need to continue having a profitable business. It makes us all better, allows us to give back to our customer base. But one of the things that we target, too, is by mitigating all this risk. If you look at the numbers, we truly believe we're impacting people's lives. Because when we started the company, incident rates were, and there's a formula for this, there's multiplied by 200,000 man hours, et cetera, but they were in general over 7 per year. Now they're under 1 in the United States. Now, I'm not saying that we're the reason for that, but we're part of the whole formula that helps that, and our employees know that. And I think having a common enemy to fight, the fatalities and the incidents rates, that's something that brings us together.
And a clear metric. I mean, it's a clear metric that everyone says that's success or not success.
That's right.
So bring us to today with ISN and kind of what's happened over the last couple of years and where you guys are headed and your path and what you're thinking about. And
thanks, Scott. It's been a great journey. Just over 3 years ago, we took on our first partner, financial partner, and it's been a great, interesting run. Blackstone, very honored that they came, knocked on the door. We had talked to several high quality firms over the time, last few years, but Blackstone knocked on the door in the summer of 2020, and I thought, well, are they looking for a wounded duck here? And as we all know, things actually went the opposite from a valuation perspective around the world. And really enjoyed talking with those guys. We just were up front and said, look, we respect you guys, but we're not interested. We're not ready to hang up the cleats, and we're going to keep going. So we understand. So they kind of came back, we did this dance. And finally, they said, we said, look, we might entertain a minority, but it would have to be these terms. So we ended up in December 2020 with a very good deal. So they purchased 25% of the company, all common stock. They have 25% of the board, no debt on the business. So they truly wanted to be on the train going forward with us. They have truly contributed in valuable ways. Things have gone so well, and our communication has been so good, and the company's continuing to perform, obviously. So that makes everything better. So our deal with them is, typical 5 to 7 years. They're very patient. They would love to probably invest more. They're open to do something else with somebody else. They're open to an IPO. So we have meetings periodically with others, probably every couple of weeks, and they encourage that. And then we'll see. We need to make sure we have fully onboarded this new acquisition that we've done on the supply chain mapping. I don't know if that takes another year or two. You know, we want to watch the markets and see when the best timing is. But right now, we truly are just communicating, gathering information, but keeping our head down and focusing on the business and continuing to do that.
Were you courting anybody, or they found you unsolicited, so to speak?
Yeah, they found us, you know, connection of somebody here or used to work somewhere there. And we probably would talk to maybe 4 private equity firms back at that moment in time, on a somewhat regular basis. But most of them, you know, which I understand, to get their returns, especially back then at cheap money, wanted to put, you know, a ton of debt on it and go forward. But we weren't ready for that at the time.
This is where, Joe, I want you to, in that our listener, someone owns a $20-30 million business. How would you coach them and guide them? Most of the stuff doesn't just happen, I mean, just out of the blue. You had been having some regularly scheduled meetings with private equity. Was that you and Bill saying, hey, we should just always, we think we might need some investment? Coach up an entrepreneur, because you're driving hard every day and you're knee deep in the business. Sometimes it's hard to work on the business. How would you coach up some of our entrepreneurs on thinking this through? Should they even be having those conversations, or should they just keep their head down and grow their business?
You know, it depends. I think they've got that person, those people have to look in the mirror and ask themselves, what do they think they're missing? If they have an honest conversation in the mirror and they can say, look, I need to professionalize my company a little bit more. And can I do it? And if they can't, then they may want to look at taking on an investor. If they look in the mirror and say, I'm tired, I'm done, I want to cash out, then maybe they should take on an investor. If they look in the mirror and they say, we've got a lot of meat on the bone, but I just don't know what else to do right now. I don't know how to grow, where to grow. And when you're having these conversations in the conference room ad nauseum, and you're like, what do you want to do that? Do you want to do that? Maybe you'd bring on a partner. And so I think those are the things you have to ask yourself of why. You know, if you're only doing it for the money, there's plenty of people out there to line up if you have a good business to do that. But it's not just the money. It's what, after the dust settles, are you going to be happy that they're standing there with you, shoulder to shoulder? And different firms have different personalities. You can put on the spectrum of, some are going to have a very detailed playbook that you better follow. Yep. Regardless if it's minority or majority, there's going to be different rules in the paperwork to get them there. And some on the other end are going to be, we just want to take it to the train and go with you. So I think it's truly, it's not a direct enough answer, Joe, but I think it's something that you just really need to think about yourself.
So in y'all's case, what was the catalyst? What was the thing that you finally said, all right, we're willing to do this at this time?
It was not, we were done. We wanted to keep going. We still want to keep going. It was not the professionalism of the firm, we didn't think. And that's been confirmed after Blackstone has come in, that they've said, yeah, this, that, and the other, but overall, you guys are on it.
Yeah.
So it was truly the what's next.
Yeah.
You know, we have customers in over 90 countries. We have the money to invest back into the company. We had never done an acquisition, an outside investment. You know, so we had all these.
Prior to Blackstone, you all had not acquired anything. Yeah,
never.
Interesting.
So you have all these things. You know, our board meetings were very good and very, I'd say very structured. But, having somebody else in the room makes you better.
Sit up straighter.
You sit up straighter when the teacher's in the room. And And again, they're not the teacher, they're the partner, but you care just a touch more. That's human. That's being human. And we knew that would happen. And we knew that when Brian and I go to the Blackstone CEO conference, can you imagine? You walk in, there's 120 CEOs from Blackstone, different portfolios. I mean, that'll make you stand up real quick and stand up straight. So those types of things we knew we could benefit from. And sure enough, it has, because now we've done our first acquisition. Now we're doing 3 more internal projects that I don't think we would have ever done, that have taken investment, and they're working. So bottom line, and I've said this at different Blackstone meetings with them, is they've given us the courage to do things that I don't think we would have done by ourselves.
It's interesting because you and Bill, we're sort of flying at a certain altitude, and then you bring in this new partner, and they're accustomed to flying at a different altitude, and they're looking across 120 portfolio companies, and the amount of reps that they have that they can see, that gives them the confidence to then say to you, you guys should go do this. We've seen this replicated 100 times or whatever, whereas you guys, you don't even have one rep. It's a big, scary thing, but now all of a sudden you've got this partner that just has this completely different perspective that has the ability to really unlock a lot of potential.
That's so right. I mean, they have it, and then they can connect you with another CEO, another executive team. Yeah. And it is, it's been re-energizing for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Experience matters. I mean, I think about the reps and the exposure, in some of our conversations with entrepreneurs, Joe, the first one always feels like it's your DNA's wrapped up in it, your personality. Obviously, you and Bill, in a sense, it is your first one. You were a little bit older, though, in it. So maybe you were a little less emotional in some of it. But yeah, speak to that business leader, owner, the value of bringing in experience or getting downwind of yourselves. How do they take inventory? You've addressed it some, but I think it's such a common issue. How do you evaluate where you are in the process?
How did you and Bill get to a point where you guys looked at each other and said, we need to do this?
Now's the time.
So with Mark and me, same, we just took a minority investor as well. And, but it was kind of like, we looked at each other and we were like, we got to do this, because there's a piece of the business that we're not able to, the M&A piece that we're 2 men in a truck trying to do that, and we need some professionals to help us. And it was a very clarifying, easy conversation to kind of go to this next level. How did you and Bill, what was the conversation you guys had?
I think when we ran out of runway, that he nor I nor anyone on our team could do it. And do it means take us outside of our normal day-to-day business. Or we couldn't hire another consultant to come in and show us the way to, I don't know.
Because you did hire consultants.
We hired consultants. We would have countless conversations leading up to this about, okay, because we have our core business, which is great. And it's like, okay, we're expanding from I'm fast forwarding here over 2 decades, from energy into nuclear, not just traditional oil and gas, but into nuclear and other energy. Oh, let's go into heavy manufacturing, steel, food. Okay, yeah, I get that. I get that. I can do that.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, let's go into Canada, because we've got some sister companies that operate in Calgary. Great. Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, there's a complexity. We got that. Okay. All right. Another geography, another new vertical, another geography, another new vertical. great. So we keep building this, and it's going tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, really need to get the supply chain on board, not just the people turning wrenches and the engineering. Let's try. We tried this. We tried that. We tried a consultant. We tried another consultant. We tried this in a beta test. Wasn't happening. So then it's like, okay, what about, we've got all this insurance. Can we track all this insurance on these contracting companies? We've been approached by countless insurance companies. We'll sell insurance to the contracting companies, and we'll partner with you, and we'll come in. Both carriers and brokers have come in and pitched us on this. Okay, maybe this will work. Then we don't want to hurt the integrity of what we've built. So all this, I'm giving you two fast examples, but we probably went through 50 of these types of examples. And when we finally looked at each other and go, I don't have an answer to you. and I don't know another consultant that we can pay that's going to
give us the answer.
Yeah. So sorry, that's a long answer to your question, but you just get to maybe a fatigue point where you're like, we need to probably go. And you have to believe that you can scale up.
Yeah.
Because we had scaled. So, we can do this. We can not only be good in Texas and the U.S. and North America, and a little bit in international, but we can do this on a main stage. And I think believing that, being honest with ourselves, is we knew it was time to do it. One thing you talk about in entrepreneurs too is, about being a little bit older, doing that, because when we started the company, we were I gave you the example about the hotel and driving, and our office was just a POS. I mean, and just, it was so bad, but we didn't spend a dime on anything because we were a little bit older. So we knew we don't need the publicity. We just have to make it. And I tell people all the time, in a subscription-based model, it's like a single engine airplane. You take off and there's the treetops. And if I can just get this many more customers, subscribing customers, I can get over those treetops, and then it's blue sky. But if you don't, you're going to hit those trees.
100%.
And when we went over those treetops, our wheels hit the tops of those trees. We barely made it. I don't think we would have made it without that fiscal conservatism.
You just needed a place. Your wives just needed you out of the house. Just go sit somewhere other than the house and get this thing off the ground. Literally. Joe, as we wrap up, one of the exercises we like to do occasionally is you got a minute or two to 100 business owners, entrepreneurs, and kind of what's your elevator pitch, encouragement, inspiration, challenge, story? What's your final word to a wide range of entrepreneurs out there?
Kind of said it earlier, but again, be honest with yourselves and what your business really is and what it can do. Also be honest with yourselves with the financials. We've managed this business from the beginning on a cash basis. Don't get me wrong, we do all the accounting, all the gap accounting, all the right stuff, all the reporting to Blackstone. But you manage the business, adjusted this, adjusted that. I mean, just count the money and make sure you got enough to pay everybody and your expenses. So many times I think, people maybe fool themselves a little bit on what they really have. And sometimes it's better than they even think, and the other could go the other route. So I would say just honest with yourself on the business, what your capabilities are, what your core capabilities are, honest yourself with the financials, and, honest with yourself what you want to do next, and are you the one to do it? And that's hard when it's your baby. But it's not to say you can't still be involved or you can't go do it again. And if you're in a right flight pattern, I'd say don't give up. Don't. It's an interesting timing, because a lot of people would have said, "Wow, I would have taken this on. I would have taken private equity on 10 years ago," and I'm very happy we didn't. But our numbers were good enough that we could continue to sustain and watch the ebbs and flows of the market. So,
what's next for you?
It's been wonderful again having leadership like Brian Callahan for our company. He's a way better operator than I am. He's definitely more disciplined than I am. But I am excited to, still be, shoulder to shoulder with him and be involved in the business. I think we've got still a lot of runway with what we're doing, not only on our core business side, but the supply chain side. We're doing some amazing things internally, like I mentioned earlier, that I think can help not only companies, but companies are made up of people, and those people that are out there, those individuals that are out there. So there's some things on the horizon, but right now we have no plans to quit yet. But love to work. I love it. I mean, Scott's probably knows how bad I am at golf, so I've got to do something. So.
Well, I think when you love your work, it's not work.
It's not,
right. It's just part of who you are, and we say this a lot. You can't take the entrepreneurship out of the entrepreneur, right? And so you sell your company and you go spend a year and you get your handicap down to 2, and you're like, okay, now what? You're going to be bored. I've said a lot recently, because people will say, you're 56 and you've been doing this. I've been doing this for 35 years, and when are you going to be done? And for me, I just now have the job I've always wanted, which is an incredible organization of very committed people who want to serve. And so let's go do that. Yeah. Let's go figure out how we do that in a bigger, better way. And that's what inspires me every day. And it's fun. It's not work.
Yeah. And walking in, we're excited here in Dallas. We are moving to a new office over on Knox, right there at the Katy Trail in Knox.
Nice.
So that's new construction. If you've seen the big hole in the ground over there.
Yeah, that's where my CrossFit Katy Trail used to be.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, right there by the old 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
How many floors, square feet will y'all have there, Joe?
Let's see. I think that building's 8 or 9 stories. We're going to have 5 floors.
Okay.
Wow.
Awesome.
And so,
awesome.
And we debated that. You think about, we could start, cleaning out the closet, or we could start, continuing the momentum, and we're just continuing the momentum. And even after the pandemic and, people in the office, and we've had more and more, people in the office, seems like every month or two, just more and more there and engaged. And we're excited. Our average age is, 31, 32 years old, for our company. So it's going to be a great spot.
Yeah, it'll be a great spot.
And it's really invigorated our team.
Joe, this has been incredible. Thanks for your humility, thoughtfulness, your time. And I know you've helped all of our audience tremendously. So thanks. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
of course.
Thanks for being here. You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Decision Points. Have a great day.